G'day folks, I'm in for an absolute treat today. The borders have opened and ruck's in WA and I'm at the magnificent Perth Zoo. Visiting some of the relatives perhaps? Maybe. I do always feel right at home at the zoo, and aside from looking after some 1,500 animals here, making them feel at home is a huge part of the zoo's success. Clever use of the right flora and vegetation to create the ideal habitats for the animals is the key, and here in the African Savannah is a perfect example. Opened in 1991, it covers 3 acres of the zoo. So, Peter, you'd be forgiven for thinking that we were in Africa. How'd you go about setting up a beautiful habitat like this?
Well, you initially started off with, obviously you have to think about the animals' needs before you think about the plants or anything like that. And then once we've decided this is what the animals need, then you can sort of start looking at the softer landscape or the plants or that sort of thing. The whole idea of these exhibits are as if you're actually in Africa or Asia or whatever the exhibit might be. So you try to find as many plants as you can that are suitable to that particular animal's needs, and then you start thinking about the design of it and that sort of thing.
We're lucky that a lot of those southern African plants grow really well here in Perth. I notice you've got a few species here. What are some of those big trees there?
Kygelia is one, that's like a sausage tree. And then you've got an African tulip tree. That's a pretty spectacular tree.
From African Savannah to the Australian wetlands, this exhibit was modelled around Herdsman Lake in Perth's north.
So this originally used to be a concrete pond. We come up with the idea of creating a habitat for these birds. And there's a local lake, Herdsman Lake, which we sort of got some inspiration from. And then we've planted it all out with reeds predominantly.
And so what is the purpose of the reeds that you've got here?
Mainly habitat, but the other major purpose of it is to strip out the nutrients, the waste products of the birds. With all that manure going into the waterway, you're just going to end up with algal bloom unless you've got some sort of filter. So it cycles through the reeds and then it strips out all the nutrients and you end up with a reasonably end product that's quite clean, good looking waterway.
With so many animals and mouths to feed, it's hard to imagine just how much food they must go through and what goes into preparing it all. Well, we're about to find out from the lady in charge, Chief Fodder Coordinator, Leanne Root. So Leanne, we're in the browse shed. What exactly is browse?
Nigel, browse, defined by Perth Zoo, is the vegetation that we feed to our herbivores, and predominantly leaf and stem. And we also utilise a lot of the material for enrichment purposes to make sure the animals are all getting what they require nutritionally for their diet. Some of the all-round species, hibiscus, the ficus species, you have your Helii, Benjamina, your Rubiginosa, Macrocarpa, Califer is another big one.
Interesting. So do you grow much stuff on site?
A lot of the perimeter garden is browse, all edible species that we prune annually and feed out.
Yeah, it's an amazing setup. Well, what a wonderful insight into how they feed and care for the animals here at the zoo. We've been to the savannah, we've been to the wetlands, and now, to finish the day, we're feeding the giraffes their favourite food, carob. Look at the way they chew it.